Hey V-Team, today we're talking ethics. Now, if you've ever wondered what happens during an ethics investigation, look no further because on today's episode, we have three guests who are going to help demystify the process. Joining me are Jim Matteo, Executive Director of Investigations and Protective Intelligence, Kim Porcaro, Director of Employee Relations, and Steve Helvin, Head of Ethics and Legal Investigations. Each play a role in the investigations process depending on the nature of the issue. So, thank you all for joining me. Great to have you here.
Thanks for calling.
I figured we'd jump right in. I know a lot of folks are curious about the investigation process, so could you all walk us through that process, and while doing that, talk about each of the roles that you all play. Steve, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Kim and Jim.
Thanks, Raquel. Appreciate you having us here. So, when you report a matter, the first thing I think that's important to know is that Verizon is going to take that concern very seriously. You're going to hear back from an investigative specialist who's going to work with you to help make sure they understand what the issue is that you're trying to bring forward, and they're going to be able to answer any questions that you have about the investigative process. In terms of my team, I had, as you mentioned, ethics and our legal investigations function. So there's sort of two important things to know there. One is we look at a wide variety of matters that involve integrity in the code of conduct or anything that involves sort of a sensitive legal issue. But more importantly, we also are the one-stop shop for any V-teamers who want to raise their hand and bring forward one of those types of concerns.
I'm Jim Matteo. I'm Executive Director of Investigations for Corporate Security. So the type of things, typically we are kind of an intake for most types of issues, most types of cases. It could be anything from something very small to something very large, inside, outside the company. There's no guidelines or no guardrails for the types of issues that we take in.
And I'm Kim Porcaro. I'm here on behalf of the Human Resources function. When you think about human resources, I think most often we think of the HR business partners. HR business partners are those aligned out in the business unit, and they are the face of the HR organization to our employees. When it comes to investigative matters, very often an HR business partner can and will investigate and resolve any manner of workplace environment issue that might get raised, either on their own or in partnership with the employee relations team that I lead. In terms of the ER team, we are located in a separate part of the HR organization by design and really serve two main functions. One is to provide subject matter expertise on investigations and complex employee issues, and the other, probably most important, is to be a neutral third-party investigator in matters that are particularly egregious or where it would be inappropriate to have an HR business partner investigate.
So I think there's an important point here. We don't expect our V-teamers to remember which organization does what. The most important thing is, as long as they raise their hand, these organizations are going to work together, make sure that we get the concern into the right hands of the appropriate subject matter expert, and that concern is going to get reviewed by an independent subject matter expert who's going to conduct a fair, objective review of the issue.
So thank you for each of you for going through your roles and the process. I think that really helps break it down for folks to really understand what happens after they report something. So a question for all of you that I'm curious about, how is integrity and confidentiality, how does that come into play in the process?
Confidentiality is such an important part of what we do. So we keep the identities of people involved in investigations confidential to every extent that we're able to, subject only to the need to appropriately and thoroughly investigate. So what does that mean? It means we don't share your name if you participate in an investigation unless we absolutely have to. I can give you two examples to illustrate a bit about what this means. So if I raised a concern that a coworker was falsifying travel and expense reports, that investigator is not going to go to that person and say, Kim is claiming that you're defrauding the company. It's not the type of issue where there would be any need to identify the person who raised the concern. On the other hand, if I claimed that my manager acted unprofessionally towards me in a one-on-one meeting that no one else was witness to, the investigator can't simply take my word for it that the story is true without talking to the manager to get their perspective. And that's important for the fairness of the process, making sure that every party has the opportunity to be heard. So two key takeaways on confidentiality. One, anyone who conducts investigations at Verizon is going to be very mindful about confidentiality and about protecting you in the process. And two, if you ever have questions about the confidentiality of a matter, you can always talk to the investigator. They will be honest with you about how confidentiality may play out in your particular matter.
That's awesome. I love that you can actually talk to the investigator. That's a really great way to be transparent. Steve?
At the beginning of the process and throughout the process, we want open lines of communication with the investigator, so that way you can have confidence that the investigator is really understanding the issue as you see it, and that they're looking at the right thing, and that they can talk to you about the process to make sure that you are comfortable with how your information is being used, how the process is carrying out, and what may happen downstream.
Absolutely. So something I think we do really well here at Verizon is tell folks to speak up. Ask questions if you have a question. Talk to ethics. We're here to help you. But what about folks who may have some common concerns, retaliation maybe, and other concerns? How do you abate some of those fears?
Sure. Well, retaliation is a very real concern. What employees need to know is that we don't tolerate retaliation, and we absolutely take action when it's found. So we know that retaliation can take obvious or very subtle forms, anything from being selected for a reduction in force to being, consistently excluded from meetings or being given impossible deadlines or deliverables. But my team is dedicated to conducting independent, thorough investigations into all concerns of retaliation. I can tell you from firsthand experience that when we do establish retaliation, the person who engaged in that conduct is held accountable. And most often that means they'll no longer be employed by Verizon. For us, it's a fundamental integrity issue and vital to maintaining that speak up culture.
I want to let you know that we get the bravery that's involved in bringing an issue forward, and it's on all of us to give them confidence in the review process. But creating an environment of support is not just the responsibility of security, HR, ethics, or the rest of the investigations teams. If you're a people leader, you have an extra responsibility to make sure your employees know that they can openly and honestly share any concerns that they have.
Absolutely.
So, Cal, one final barrier that I think is worth talking about to people coming forward and speaking up is, sometimes I hear that there's this fear that Verizon's not going to act, that if they report something, nothing's going to be done, there's going to be no change made. And so I think it's really important to talk about how Verizon resolves matters. At the close of the investigation process, we're going to get back to you so that you know that the review is done. And Verizon will always take appropriate action, whether that's on an individual level of accountability or on a broader systemic or process or controls level. And whatever action we take, it's going to be grounded in fact, the evidence we have, the findings that we found in the investigation. So when we close out with you to let you know that the issue is resolved, there may be some limits to what we can share. For example, if we were to take disciplinary action against an employee, that's going to be private between Verizon and the person affected, right? But that said, we are going to share as much information as we can about both the process and the outcome. It's really important that we do that because we can demonstrate to you that way that not only were you heard, but the company took the matter seriously and did the right thing. I've been at the company conducting investigations for the last 20 years. I've looked into some of the most sensitive and serious conduct issues the company has faced. And I think it's important that people know that not once have I ever been asked to back off of a matter because of the level of the person involved. Not once have I ever been asked to sweep a matter under the rug or undersell what we found. We do the right thing every time.
That's really important, I think, to really mention is that we do the right thing. That definitely makes folks feel like, okay, I'm going out on fear, but at the end of the day, I know that it's going to be the right thing from end to end, on my end and on this end as well. So really great to share that. You all have given great insights into the process, but what's one thing, if you could, one takeaway for the V team that you would give?
I'll take this one. If I could boil it down to one thing, it's that we can't fix what we don't know about. So at Verizon, we really believe in that speak up culture where employees feel confident that they can safely raise an issue and that the company will do the right thing when it identifies behavior or activity that is inconsistent with our credo or our code of conduct. And there are a number of ways that employees can bring forward those concerns. They can raise it to a member of their management chain, all the way up to the senior leader. They can bring it to a human resources business partner or my team, to security or to Verizon ethics.
Jim, any final thoughts for you?
Lastly, I think the biggest thing, and one of the things that maybe we didn't touch on is we're a big company, but we're a small family. And we take, as far as the integrity of investigations, incredibly seriously. If our investigator has a personal relationship with someone who, whether that be friends, inside, outside the office, we will put a different investigator on there so that they can be impartial. You never have to worry that someone's going to come in with a bias or be looking at you funny because maybe they have some experience.
Right.
In the past with you. It's always going to be fair and impartial. And again, whichever of us you get it to, it is going to get in the right hands and it will be addressed.
So Raquel, for me, I think what I would say is that if you do raise a concern, if you, as Jim said, if you put that trust in Verizon, in us, you have our personal commitment that we're going to be responsive. Your issue is not going to go into a black hole. We're going to take the time to understand your perspective on what you're sharing. We're going to get the issue into the right people's hands. And those people who are going to look into the matter, they're going to be committed to conduct a fair, thorough, impartial investigation. And we're going to be mindful of using the techniques and tools that we have to maintain your confidentiality. And finally, if our investigation does find that we have an integrity issue, as a company, we're going to face that head on and we're going to take action. Thank you for taking the time to watch this. If you're out there and something is bothering you, we are here for you. We can help you. All we ask is that you let us know.
Steve, Kim, Jim, thank you so much for sharing. This is super helpful for our V team to really break down the process. Really appreciate that. All right, well, folks, it is nice to see the people behind the process and understand that they are V teamers just like the rest of us and helping us lead with integrity. All right, V team, thanks so much for tuning in. For more information on how to report an ethics concern, head over to today's story. Until next time, you're up to speed.